Hey guys, this is the AP World History Guide. This is my first video, and I plan on helping you all prepare and succeed, and like my little picture at the top says, score a 5 on the AP World History exam. For a lot of you, this is your first exam. And I know that you guys have the potential, but that's if you use all the resources given to you. And I plan to give you as many resources as I can so that you can succeed in the long run when it comes to taking your test sometime in May. So let's get started. As you're going to notice throughout my series, I'm going to have an outline ready, and it's going to show you what I plan to do throughout the video so you kind of know what you're learning, what's going on, so it makes it easier. So you're not sitting there bored, practically out of your mind, not knowing what's going on. So I want to introduce myself and introduce the subject at hand. I want to discuss what AP really means and some of the topics you're going to see on the exam, as well as the format, because if you don't know the format, how are you going to take this test? I'm going to discuss the time division, which could be the key rule in whether you pass it or not. And then at the end, I'm going to wrap it up and give you guys any links that you need, that you saw in the video, or recommend some resources that you might want to buy on the sideline if you really want to take the initiative and study on your own. So a quick introduction. I've taken the World History exam in my 10th grade year. And I took it, I really studied hard, and I managed to pass with a 3. Then last year, I tutored a group of AP World History students, and a good portion of them passed this year, and I'm doing the same thing again. I'm working with a new set of kids, a new set of 9th graders. So I figured, hey, why not make a resource that multiple world history students could look at? And so that's kind of the content I'm creating for you. If you have any questions or suggestions or any tips that you might want to give me, that'd be great. Well, what is AP World History? So as you already know, or you will be finding out soon when school starts, that AP is a college-based course centered around high school students preparing and testing their potential. All over the social media, probably on Twitter, on Facebook, you might have seen pictures or GIFs about students being overhyped or really depressed about AP scores that are coming out. And be like, oh, the AP World History exam did this to me, or oh, the AP scores made me feel like this. And since you guys are going to be enrolled in AP World, you're going to be feeling the same way. I felt the same way too. When my scores were coming out, I was super, super nervous. And seeing all those GIFs really didn't help. But in a few short words, AP is made for you to take a college class while you're still in high school. You earn college credit by spending a whole year preparing for an exam. And then, depending on your score, the colleges you send your scores off to will give you college credit. So basically, the style of this class is not like many college classes. It's more rigorous, more demanding. You always have to be reading, taking pop quizzes, writing essays galore. But the whole point is overall to prepare you for this big exam in May. So, like many, and myself included, I've given up hours of sleep or even weekends to prepare to pass this test. And so it sounds really scary to those who haven't taken an AP course. But these classes are worth it in the end because if you dedicate your time and your study and you learn new tricks and ways to help you pass, then it's going to pay itself off. And this is where I'm going to come in. Throughout my video series, I plan to offer you tips and tricks and lectures and just basic things you need to know to pass the AP World History exam. Scores and what they mean. When you get your scores at the end, but this is very far into the future, but you should know this now. You're going to get a score between 1 and 5. 1 meaning you're not going to get any credit whatsoever, so in essence think of it like an F, like you didn't pass. And a 5 meaning extremely well qualified to receive college credit, like an A. So you can range between a 1 and a 5. Normally students want to get a 3 and higher, meaning that you pass the course. And if you send your credit off, your college will deem it as a class, so you don't have to take a class in college. So as of this year really, more students that took this AP World exam, a good 31.7% got a 3, 15.8% scored a 4, and 6.4% scored a 5. So more students passed this year than last year. So basically, the rough statistics are that half of your class will pass and half of your class will fail. But if you take the initiative, you can alter that percentage in your favor to make sure that you pass. So kind of like what I was saying, and I keep mentioning, depending on what your score is, college will give you a class credit, and if you continue taking AP classes and you pass, you will spend less time and less money in college. And normally that's the whole point of it, to pass, take less classes in college, save you tuition money. At the same time, think of it this way: when you're taking all these classes, it boosts your weighted GPA, so then you start gaining ranks later on. It has a bunch of benefits. You just need to make sure that you're studying and putting in effort in order to pass for this exam. This is the exam format. This is like the most crucial part of this PowerPoint, and you guys have to really pay attention. So your exams space out into two portions. You're going to have the multiple choice section, which is 70 questions that you got to do in 55 minutes. And then you have the essay portion, which is 2 hours and 10 minutes, and you have 3 essays you got to cover. You have a document-based essay, a change over time essay, and a comparative essay. Each one is 40 minutes. That's how long you should be taking. But when it comes to the DBQ, or your document-based question, you get like 10 minutes to read the documents and then answer the question. But I'll be covering those 3 specifically in another video, and I'll go over the rubric and how it's scored. We'll go over like some essays that students wrote, and we'll practice ourselves just so you kind of get the hang and the feel of what these essays are. When it comes to the multiple choice essay, you see 70 questions in 55 minutes, you're freaking out. But if you're really studying and you're taking tests and practice tests, it's not that hard. Before, it used to be 5 options, and now it's 4, making the answer more obvious, so it's easier to pick. And so, based on like my personal experience, when I sat down and I took that test, the multiple choice section was a joke. I had studied so hard and I looked at so many hard questions that when I got down to it, when I sat down and taking the test, it was so easy, and I started laughing. And my proctor thought I was crazy. But just keep studying, and it won't be as hard. Oh, and I want to make a quick note that throughout the course, I will be giving questions of the day here on my website, on my YouTube channel, and on a Twitter. So at the end, I'm going to put a link, not only in the description, but at the end of the PowerPoint, so that you can sign up and follow me. And I'll give questions of the day, tips on handling stress, how to write the essays, just so if you need any help, you can have multiple sources to refer to. So there's 5 themes that will be covered for the AP course alone throughout the course of the year, and you need to understand those 5 themes very well in order to succeed in passing the exam. So the basic 5 themes are interaction between humans and the environment, the development and interaction of cultures, state building, expansion and conflict, creation, expansion, and interaction of economic systems, and finally development and transformations of social structures. You need to pay attention to these themes. Yes, it's great to understand what's happening in history and what's going on and when, also as where it's occurring, like whether it's in India or China, and who it's with. But if you don't know these themes, all you're doing is memorizing dates and facts, and that's kind of not what the exam's centered around. The exam's centered around understanding things, putting 2 and 2 together, how things are interconnected. It's not really when did this war happen or when did this battle happen. Okay, so the first theme, interaction between humans and the environment. This theme includes demography, and demography is basic population. So how many births, how many deaths, how many immigrants, how many people are leaving, whether the population is growing, whether it's declining, and what causes it, this like sudden change. You have disease, you have migration and patterns of settlement, so where people are living, where they tend to settle around. And you're going to notice that within the first couple of chapters when you're starting to read your books at school and with the lectures here, that people are going to be settled down in certain areas that deem worthy or beneficial to society. And also you'll be working and noticing technology. So basically, how has mankind throughout history interacted with the environment in order to survive? So as you're learning about the time periods that not only I cover, but your teachers cover, keep in mind how humans are working with our environment. How are we farming, fighting? The second theme, development and interaction of cultures. This theme includes religions, belief systems, philosophies and ideologies, science and technology, and the arts and architecture. So this theme basically wants you to focus on how mankind has mentally developed and shown its creative and its intellectual side. And like basic ideas like when you look at the Renaissance, how did we develop from the Renaissance? And the Age of Enlightenment, how has mankind shaped itself and thought of how the world around it works? And quick tidbit here, don't worry if you don't understand what's going on with certain pictures that I put or some events that I mentioned. You're going to be learning it, so don't kind of beat yourself up over it. And later on, you're going to look back at the beginning of the series and you're going to understand what this picture means. Or this picture. And what religion they're tied to. It just takes practice. So don't worry about it. So our third theme is state building and expansion, as well as conflict. So you must understand political structures and the form of governance, so like communism or dictatorship or fascism, which you'll be learning on later, and I'm jumping all over the place. But trust me, it'll make sense later on. How like empires are built, nations and nationalism, so what ties them together, revolts and revolutions, what break them apart, and then like regional, transregional, and global structures of organization. So basically, all this mumbo jumbo really means how have we gone from like hunter gatherers, where we were people that worked in groups in order to survive, to empire builders like Rome, that we all know as classical, to the modern way that we live, whether it's democratic or it's under a monarchy or under communism. And if you understand that, then basically you're. So our fourth theme is creation, expansion, and interaction of economic systems. Agricultural and pastoral production, trade and commerce, labor systems, industrialization, finally capitalism versus socialism. So the picture I have at the bottom is the perfect representation of this theme. So we used to go from barter trade, so I trade you your apples for my cow, and or my cloth for your berries. To now that we use money. And so, like, I'll give you $50 for groceries, and how that whole system works. Basic, kind of like economics, but how we interact with money and how we control each other with money, like with checks and balances, or the government keeping an eye on it, or we get to control how the money flows. So that's kind of how it works itself out. 15, development and transformational social structures. So how we socially interact, like gender roles, um, relations, family kinships, racial and ethnic constructions, and social and economic classes. So you need to understand why we organize ourselves a certain way, why we create classes, what divisions are made, why are the divisions made, and what those divisions have caused. Whether they cause revolutions or creations of philosophies. This is the big important thing. This is our historical periodization. So the AP World History course is kind of structured around you understanding some themes as well as like chronological periods. So you have 6 of them, and they range from 8000 BCE or before Common Era up until present day. And they're separated out of a certain reason, like there's a certain way why they're split up into certain time dates. And the whole point of the course is for you to understand why they're organized that way. So the first one is from 8000 BCE to 600 BCE. Then you have 600 BCE to 600 CE. And CE is Common Era, BCE is before Common Era. They kind of changed it from AD to BC just to keep any religion out of it. Then you have 600 CE to 1450, 1450 to 1750, 1750 to 1900, and then 1900 to the present day. As I want you to notice right here, the first block, that 8000 BCE to 600 BCE, is only weighed at 5%. So the test, the multiple choice section, it's only going to test 5% of it. So in essence, it might not even be there. So it's not only important to know when these things happen or where they happen, like I've been saying before, you need to be able to understand why college was split up this huge time period into 6 smaller chunks. If you're able to understand that, then it makes taking not only the multiple choice section, but the essay section like an easier thing to do. You're not having to think about when something happened. You think about what each period has in common and what defines each period, whether it's religion or trade or whatever, or a war, or revolutions. You look at what makes each section notable, what each time period is sharing, or most notable. So when you get to an essay and they ask you about the period between 600 CE to 1450 CE, at least you know what's happening in the world thematically, making it easier to write the essay instead of staring at the paper. Like I said, these are the links that I have. Um, if you find that my videos aren't helping, you can go check out the YouTube video Crash Course World History, where the author of The Fault in Our Stars has the first season and starting the second season of world history, which is very helpful and is very colorful too if you don't like an auditorial commentary. And then, like I said on Twitter, follow at capital AP, capital A lower P, and capital W for world, and capital G for guide. So at AP World Guide, where there will be tips, tricks, and questions of the day to keep your brain mentally focused and preparing for the world history exam. And then I added something that I didn't really show. It's a on College Board. Following that link at the bottom, and I'll put it in the description. It's the course webs, like the course understanding and the course links and whatever to the AP World History. It'll show you like a course description. It'll give you practice questions. It'll explain essays in more detail unless if I don't explain them well enough for you. And it shows you like kind of what scores you might need or like what I explained in this video. It's there as well if you want to look at it again. And if you want review material to prepare for the exam, personally I suggest Kaplan to start off, the Kaplan AP World, which I put here in the top right corner. The very first one, AP World History by Kaplan. Normally you should look at that first. It's easier to understanding the material. It's kind of like spoon feeding you. It makes it easier to understand. And then once you're getting closer to the exam date, then I recommend getting the Princeton review. It just throws hardcore facts at you, so you're just reviewing whatever you need for that moment for the test. So Kaplan makes it an easier transition to get the idea, and then Princeton gives you all the hardcore facts you need. So thanks guys, and stay tuned for my next video where I'll explain the essays, the rubric, and kind of how to start writing them. Okay, bye.